So interesting. So the idea here is, among many ideas that I'm getting from both of you, is for us to realize that we have our own story and it has value, and we have something to say and contribute to the world, definitely, especially as women, International Women's Day. So to turn the focus a little bit to our other topic, which is intra-racial colorism. You mentioned idea or identity, right, that has changed over the years. And Kiana Gote, I think your identity, especially coming maybe to North Carolina Central University, has been solidified. Or if you want to talk on your identity and how has it changed if you as you go to Honduras, or is your identity different than if you're here, and how does that happen? How are you addressed in Honduras? Do people, how do people behave?
It's a Yankee.
Yankee?
I'm a Yankee.
They call you a Yankee?
Yeah, a Yankee.
Meaning a Yankee?
Yes.
Okay, so in Mexico it's gringa.
Oh, okay, well I'm not gringa.
Okay,
So
so in Honduras it's Yankee.
Yeah,
okay.
So my identity has changed throughout my 22 years of life. Simply because growing up, I considered myself just a Latina. Never really considered myself Black until maybe middle school, whenever everyone started pointing out that I looked different from the other Latinos. That's when I just considered myself Black. And then coming to college, just when I was like, I can't just be Black. I can't just be Latina. And so I always knew I was Garifuna, but I don't really put it out there so much because I don't speak the language. And if I don't speak the language, I don't want to represent something that I just wasn't really taught. So then that's when I said, you know what, I'm Afro-Latina. Because I am Latina. I speak Spanish, that's my first language. I go home, my mom speaks to me in Spanish. I go home, my mom makes arroz con pollo, plátanos, y ensalada, y horchata, y un jugo de Jamaica. See, y'all looking at me like I'm crazy. So I can't choose to just be Black. I can't choose to be African American. So that's when I decided I'm Afro-Latina, and my culture is Garifuna. So actually coming to HBCU really molded me to come to that conclusion. I feel like if I would have went to UNCG, which was one of my choices, this wouldn't be happening at all. Because it was really hard growing up, trying to figure out whether I was Black, whether I was Latina, like, especially as a little kid. It's like, oh no, you can't be Latina, you're Black. Your hair is like this, and you dress like this. So, yeah, coming to HBCU really helped me come and make my decision. I am Afro-Latina, I am a Garifuna. Yes, I can be Black, and yes, I can be Latina. There's no choice. So, yeah.
And can you address intra-racial colorism? In other words, are there different life expectations based on how one's skin color as it reflects the majority or the power structures in your experiences, whether it be in Honduras or here in the US or among friends or among family?
I don't think there's a lot of intra-racism in Honduras, at least I haven't experienced it. I believe that here, particularly in the South, because I was actually born in New York, and I said about middle schools when I started realizing I was different, because I came down here in the 6th grade, and that's when everyone started pointing out, you're not Latina. Like in New York, I still go to New York up to this day all the time, and everyone speaks to me in Spanish without actually knowing that I speak Spanish. Versus here, I speak Spanish, and everyone just stops and stares and like, what the heck is going on? So here I still feel like there's that colorism, like you cannot be this dark and speak Spanish, or I'm lighter. And
you don't look Hispanic.
I don't look.
There's that.
Yeah, I don't look Hispanic.
You don't look Spanish.
Yeah, like you're not Mexican. Wait, there's like a whole bunch of other Spanish-speaking countries. You're just pointing out Mexico for what reason? So yeah, versus in Honduras, it's like my experience is just. I'm pretty sure when my friend goes to Honduras, which does not speak Spanish, they're going to talk to her in Spanish, and she's going to have this big old question mark on her forehead. They're not going to judge her. It's like, okay, you're here, so that means you're probably Garifuna and you speak Spanish. Versus down here, I get all kinds of questions, comments, and concerns about me being physically Black and speaking Spanish or being able to dance salsa, punta, and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know whether, I'm pretty sure it probably goes back to the slavery time and all parts of history because, like I stated before, there's a lot of learning to be done in the South about racism and colorism and Afro-Latinos and the African diaspora because, like I said, in New York, there's no question. I tell people I'm Honduran, they don't ask how, they don't ask when, why, what, and all that. Versus here, it's like, I get 21 questions if I'm on the phone with my mom, hola, ¿cómo estás? Just simple stuff, like what? She just spoke Spanish. So, that's just, I think, that's just the South. It needs a lot more pushing to learn on the colorism issues.
Did that bring any thoughts to mind, Dr. Walker?
Well, I had said that in the United States, things are easy. You know, we are the one-drop rule, and that is a Southern as opposed to a Northern legal issue in that Southern states had on their books what proportion of Black, as if there were Black blood, made you Black as opposed to white. And in some states it was 1/8. So that means you have 7 white grandparents, or great-grandparents, I guess you have 8 of those. All right, so 7 are white, 1's Black, so you're Black. In some other state, I think maybe Mississippi, it was 1/16 or any at all. So you have 16, great, I don't know how many greats you have to go back to get 16. So you have 15 whites and 1 Black person. That means African blood is really amazing. Whereas elsewhere in the Americas, I mean in Brazil, right? If it were that way, then they would have had to say we are a Black country from the beginning. In Brazil, and Brazil is the best example to compare to the United States because they're both huge multi-ethnic countries. And Brazil was defined as exactly the opposite of the United States. And they had these wonderful sayings because Brazil allegedly had no racism, allegedly. And so one way you know that is the saying that the rich Black person is white and the poor white person is Black. See, we have no racism. Hence, Pelé, soccer player. Now Pelé he's a pretty Black person, okay? But he's not really Black because he's rich. So in Brazil, you have to kind of calculate stuff, you know, how much money do I make or how much money do people think I make to decide what one is. So, I mean, I would say, okay, well, what am I? And so they would, you know, the standard elements of the equation, hair, lips, nose. In Brazil, though, they have to factor in money. So, university professor, hence rich, meaning they know nothing about the United States. Okay? So I got to be white, because I was rich. If Pelé is whiter than I am because he's richer, although he's a lot darker than I am. What is clear every place in the Americas is that all African descendants have been alienated by the imposition of Euro values. So, otherwise we would not possibly have concepts of good hair and bad hair. I was lucky. I grew up in a great family. I never learned those concepts in my family. We had one friend who did not have good hair, and that was Howard, and he didn't have any hair. So I never got to internalize our kind of alienation from ourselves, but the idea that you should be considered more beautiful to the extent that you do not look like the ancestors who are responsible for your reality is kind of a pathological result of the racism of the United States. Because if I think about who I am, it's not any other relatives than my African ancestors who determined who I am in the United States. You know, I am an African American, right? And I think it's very healthy that the terminology that we use, African American, I think that's very healthy because that leads those of us who use the word consciously to think about who we are and understand that without understanding the Africanity of who we are, then we really don't get it. We can't. In every place in the Americas, intra-African descendant colorism exists. There is always language for good hair and bad hair. Bom cabello. I learned about the intra-African descendant racism in the Americas taking a Portuguese class and reading the book Jubiabá by Jorge Amado. And the hero liked to make love with mulatas with good hair. Had I read it in English, I would not have seen the words, I'm sure, because they're so obvious, we all know that. But to see it in another language, I'm like, oh, they too have that concept. So that's a pathology that we've all learned in some way. Advertising reinforces it. But now, I think things are getting a lot better. You see more sisters with their textured hair as one form of good hair. So I think that until we all have good hair, we're being pathological. And it's up to us to change it. Only we can change our minds. Bob Marley, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. Only ourselves can free our minds. Bob Marley was quoting Marcus Garvey, who had the major mass movement in the Americas in the 1920s. Marcus Garvey from Jamaica.
This conversation brings to mind, we have a professor here, Yaba Blay, who has studied about the use of whitening creams or medications in order to be able to marry up or fit into society or have a better position, and it's even encouraged within families. Could you comment, or do you have friends or family members or met anyone who has had made a comment about maybe marrying up or no? Kim?
I can't speak on that because I was actually raised to only bring a black man home, unlike other people who are probably taught to bring someone lighter or with money or anything of that nature. And whitening cream, I just can't relate to any of that, so I don't feel comfortable actually speaking about that. I do actually know my best friend is Haitian, Bajan, and Liberian, and she talks to me a lot about her family on her Haitian side actually does use whitening cream, and that they are proud to use it.
They're proud.
Yeah.
In, I believe it was 2011, our newspaper, student newspaper, The Echo, had a commentary on the back page that talked about why is it that, and I don't believe it, I checked it out, it's been, there was whitening cream sold in our student store. And the comment was, why would it be sold in our student store? And Dr. Blay and I, we spoke about that a little bit. But she spoke about Africa using whitening products. And I'm talking about skin color products, right? In Mexico, we have the saying in Spanish of mejorar la raza. No sé en otras partes, no? En Honduras también mejorar la raza. It's better your race, and it's actually the opposite. It's like make sure and bring home somebody that's lighter skinned, or like you say, is making some money, right? Or from a good family.
Yeah, I've heard that saying a lot, especially with like Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, but I wasn't raised to mejorar la raza at all, at all.
And you think that's something that when you go to Honduras, that is the feeling that you get from the community that you visit?
Not necessarily from everyone. I can only really speak about what I was taught in my family, like both mother and father's side. I wasn't raised to mejorar la raza. I do have first cousins who are mixed. They're both Honduran, like full-blooded Honduran, but they're one of their parents might be Garifuna, the other one might not be Garifuna, but I don't think that